Here's your shot at winning $1,000. Text the national keyword NOTE right now to 95819. That's NOTE to 95819. We'll text you back to confirm your entry. Data and messaging rates may apply. Please don't text and drive. It's 5K a day on WMAL. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:07. Thank you for being part of our morning conversation here on O'Connor and Company. Busy news cycle that we're trying to navigate through and make sense of. Coming up in 30 minutes, Nick Minock will give us a preview of the election in Virginia in 4 weeks. No, not the governor's race or even the attorney general's race. We may get into it, but Loudoun County, you got a school board up for grabs here with 5 seats on the ballot. Then at 8:35, the inimitable Ambassador Rick Grinnell, president of the Kennedy Center. We're going to talk all things Stuttgart. I'm Larry, which I like with a side of sauerkraut and some of that brown mustard. How about you, Julie Gunlock? How do you like your Stuttgart?
Same.
Sure, that's the only way to get it. That's what the purists do. Joining us right now, Alex Swoyer. She's an attorney and the legal affairs reporter at the Washington Times. Her book, Lawless Lawfare, Tipping the Scales of Justice to Get Trump and Destroy MAGA, is a kind of important reading if you want to make sense of the indictments that just came down for James Comey and, well, all the indictments we should be waiting for. Alex, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. I have been waiting for some more indictments, especially, following all that reporting and what we were told by Gabbard earlier this year. So more to come, I'm sure.
Meanwhile, you're putting on your legal analyst hat watching the Supreme Court right now in a couple of important cases as the session just began. Yesterday's had to do with so-called conversion therapy. There are a lot of states, including Colorado in this case, have banned psychologists, therapists, psychiatrists from engaging in what was called conversion therapy. And this involves children who are feeling, well, let's say a child is feeling gender dysphoria and they have an urge to dress up like the opposite sex. If a parent brings a child into a psychologist and said, listen, can you help our child overcome these desires? The doctor is not allowed to do that. They're only allowed to affirm and say, yes, absolutely, dress up like a girl.
Right.
Is that how I'm understanding this?
Absolutely. Or even if the child says, I want help with this, that I'm confused and especially a family of faith, that would be problematic in the state of Colorado. I think there's 22 other states that have similar laws like this. So this is, for minors, and it regulates essentially, the medical profession, licensed therapists, and what they can counsel. And so you had a Christian counselor out of Colorado go to the Supreme Court and say, this is a viewpoint discrimination under the First Amendment, which is unlawful. You can't have the government favoring one type of speech, like what you just mentioned, a counselor saying, encouraging a youth to transition, versus a counselor that's trying to encourage youth to better identify with their faith, help them through the struggling times. The lawyer for the Christian counselor noted that I think 90% of youth that struggle with gender issues usually, outgrow it or overcome it and realign with their biological sex. So there was the feedback from the justices in the courtroom, I think Alito said it was, quote, blatant viewpoint discrimination. Justice Barrett even told the Colorado Solicitor General, arguing to defend the case, that she didn't really follow her argument, which is not what you want to hear when you're the lawyer making, before the justices trying to defend the law. And seems confused about what if there's no consensus in the medical community, right? Some studies suggest conversion therapy, it's harmful, doesn't work. Others, push back on that. What I just talked about, 90% of youth that actually, return to their biological sex, that go through those confusion stages with gender dysphoria. So, yeah, I kind of got the feeling that Colorado's law had, the justices were looking at it kind of skeptical.
It's so interesting, Alex, and this is so critical because you talk to, at the Independent Women's Forum, we do a lot of work on this and interview parents who have been through this, and they often report that when they take their child to a psychiatrist because their child is dealing with gender dysphoria, often, I shouldn't say often, in every single case, and I've talked to also friends who've been through this, in every single case, their child is affirmed. Even when that parent says, can you please not affirm them? I'd like you to, talk to them about their gender dysphoria. So this is critically needed in in that industry itself,
Yeah.
because we see this, Abigail Schreier has written about this sort of, trend, especially among girls. So this is really needed in that industry. Isn't that right?
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. This reminds me of when I was at the court the last term with the case out of Tennessee where they banned medical treatment for transgender youth. That was challenged. That was not a First Amendment challenge. That was actually under equal protection. The justices said states can regulate that. But yes, I think that there is this, during those arguments, there is this push that if you don't affirm a youth's questions about their sex, or their questions about if they need to transition, then you pose a risk about suicide. And
Yes.
I think that the most recent studies have shown actually that that's not true.
Right.
That the problem actually, it comes that there's a lot of mental health issues and even physical health issues when these puberty blockers
Yes.
and other forms of treatment are pushed on them too soon, right? So, yeah, I think this is an important topic.
There's also an importance here in terms of therapists and how they're sort of categorized by the state. Everyone will think that, there are doctors. This is a medical and science-based thing. Well, no, actually, you can be a licensed therapist by just having a Bachelor of Arts degree in psychology, not necessarily a science degree. And everyone's like, oh, it's a medical-based practice, and this is based on science. I'm sure that was part of the state's argument, but this isn't actually based on science, and you can easily be a therapist with a different kind of perspective that isn't science-based, and should they have the freedom to be able to do that? This really is kind of a First Amendment thing, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think it was obvious, just when you said that some counselors would not have an issue encouraging their client to transition, but those that are seeking to help to realign with their faith that can't speak on that, obvious First Amendment issue there. So, yeah, I got the feeling the court was going to be sympathetic to this therapist. And something else to note is she can't even prescribe drugs. Her practice is all speech related. So that's another thing to consider.
Yeah, exactly. There's people have to understand there are therapists, there are psychologists, and then there are psychiatrists. I think it's only when you reach the level of psychiatry do you actually have a science degree to
authority
prescribe drugs.
To be able, right? Exactly.
Yeah. That depends on the state, though, too. I know that there's been some push in some states. Hey, Alex, can you stay? Because I know that there's an argument today about mail-in ballots, and I want to dive into that. Stick with us for just a quick 1-minute break here, and then we'll get into that with Alex Swoyer.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
There's a bit of a surge in election-related litigation that the Supreme Court is trying to wade its way through, and lower courts as well. And so they're hearing arguments today, and it has to do with standing. Is that right? But oftentimes these arguments over standing are critical in terms of who can sue over things like, stop counting ballots 2 weeks after Election Day. That's a violation of federal law. Is that what we're looking at today, Alex?
Yeah, so you're exactly right. If you remember during the 2020 election, I think all of us are, old enough to remember that, there was so much litigation after those results about mail-in ballots. And a lot of the cases were dismissed for various reasons, never really reached the merits. And what you have now are certain lawsuits that have challenged states that count ballots days after Election Day. So the one today is before the Supreme Court out of Illinois. You have a Republican congressman out of Illinois, represented by Judicial Watch, who is challenging Illinois' law, which allows ballots to be counted 14 days after Election Day, 2 weeks, like you just said. And the lower courts dismissed the case, saying that he does not have standing to sue. Standing is basically legal injury. And he was saying, no, I have to pay, my campaign has to pay election monitors extra days, right? So that's an injury, financial. But the Supreme Court has decided to review that lower court decision on the standing issue. If a federal candidate doesn't have standing to say, hey, federal election law has, or, there's one federal election day, so I'm challenging my state counting for days after that, then who would have standing is a good question. And then beyond, the reason this is so important is not only about who can sue, but there's another case pending. And I don't believe it was rejected earlier this week when the justices returned. It might have actually been relisted. I'll have to take a look. But there's been another big case where it was out of the Fifth Circuit, conservative circuit, that ruled against Mississippi's law, which had allowed 5 days after Election Day for mail-in ballots. So you do have at least some precedent at a circuit court level saying, no, ballots shouldn't be counted past Election Day. Now, the question is whether the justices are actually going to take up a case like that and actually look at the days after. Can states do this? Can they set that law? This case today is just about who can challenge that. But it's basically, they're going to go hand in hand. If they say these federal candidates can go ahead and challenge these laws, I think you're going to see even more of these lawsuits in various states.
All right. Thank you for that update on yesterday's arguments on the conversion therapy thing and a preview of today's arguments over mail-in ballots. We appreciate it. Alex Swoyer, you're going to be very busy as these cases now. We're back in season for the Supreme Court.
Absolutely. And more Trump cases, too. Thank you, Larry.
Wow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, well, and get ready for the next round of indictments. Get her book, Lawless Lawfare, Tipping the Scales of Justice to Get Trump and Destroy MAGA. Thank you, Alex Swoyer.
Thank y'all.
We've got an update on the Jay Jones text messages and his failing campaign. First of all, he's canceling events now, which now that could be a sign that the campaign is regrouping and having to sort of go into hiding until they can reconstitute, et cetera, or it could be a sign that they're just losing support and that the clock is ticking on this.
Yeah, and look, I mean, that is going to be a sign to those who are still supporting him, because if a fundraiser has said, I don't want to be associated with this guy, it's going to convey to them that I don't want to be associated with anyone who supports him. So I think today is a really important day. Watch today. Watch if people start dropping. If one person cracks, I mean, with some credence to their regrouping, it could be that they're like, okay, troops, let's, we've got this. It's gonna leave the news media. That's frankly why people like our listeners need to keep this going, need to keep asking questions.
Keep the story alive.
Keep the story alive.
Yeah, Tim Kaine was asked yesterday about this, and he reiterated on camera, "Oh, of course I support Jay Jones. Sure, nothing wrong there."
I've known him since he was, an embryo. He mentioned he's known him for like
Right, what
20
was that?
years.
I've known him 25 years, but that means he's known him since he was 16? That's weird.
Or like 11. Yeah, it's weird.
Who knows what Tim Kaine's up to? The reason Axios has the story, by the way, here about the canceled campaign event for Jay Jones, because it's not like it was a big rally or some kind of big public event. This was a private fundraiser in the home of a supporter, novelist David Baldacci. It's a private, you would think that these are your big supporters. It's okay. It's a safe space. He canceled the event. And Axios is reporting that he's burning up the phone lines right now, trying to make sure that he's got support. He's calling other elected officials, asking them to continue supporting him and come out in favor of supporting him. So there's that with Jay Jones. And then there's this. The woman who received these text messages has put out a public statement. Now, her name is Delegate Carrie Coiner. She represents a Virginia delegate district down just southeast of Richmond. She said, Jay Jones started the conversation by mistake with texts meant for another individual named Mark, but kept texting after realizing he was texting me instead. When I expressed alarm and disgust at the awful violence he was fantasizing about, he continued to try to justify his initial statements by phone and by text. And then, by the way, they've set up a website. She says, if you would like to read them yourself, you can visit jjonestexts.com. That's jjonestexts.com.
Wow.
She goes on to say that what Jay Jones said was not just disturbing, but disqualifying for anyone who wants to seek public office. Jay Jones wished violence on the children of a colleague and joked about shooting Todd Gilbert. Disturbing. disgusting and unbecoming of any public official. So then Ms. Coiner, Delegate Coiner, she sent screenshots of those text messages to Todd Gilbert because she thought that he should know about this.
Yeah.
And that's the last she heard about it until a reporter approached her and said, "Are these real?" And she honestly said, "Yes, they are real." So that's how we got these text messages.
Interesting. And that's good. I mean, look, she does, I think, have a duty to tell the voters who this guy is. He is running to be the top law enforcement official in Virginia. As a Republican, as a mother, it frightens me to think that the top law enforcement official would want Republicans dead, children dead. That is terrifying to me.
Also, by the way, do we have time for this? We do. Yeah, let's play Abigail Spanberger, who disavowed Jay Jones and said that she's withdrawn her endorsement because of how outrageous this is. I'm sorry, that audio doesn't exist. Abigail Spanberger hasn't done that. No, Abigael Spanberger
She's standing
is
next to him.
Standing by
Jay
him. Jones.
Yep.
Absolutely. That's the ticket. 7:23 with Larry. It's 7:23.
Coming up, we're going to talk to WJLA's reporter Nick Minock about the upcoming Loudoun School Board election. Keep it here, 7:30.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station.
Making sense of the news.
News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
7:37 here on O'Connor and Company, and it's a terrifying news cycle. As terrifying as getting text messages from Jay Jones. That's how scary it is, Julie Gunlock. But we're going to make our way through it, and we've got some relief coming up because at 8:35, His Excellency, the Ambassador, Rick Grinnell, now president of the Kennedy Center, going to give us a preview of tonight's big red carpet opening, the return of the Stuttgart Ballet. The magic word for today's program is Stuttgart. I'm getting $20 every time I say Stuttgart.
Really? How do I get in on that deal? I'll say it a few times.
No, I get nothing out of it, but I do enjoy saying Stuttgart. It pleases me. Although, have you noticed whenever you pronounce a German word properly, you sound like a stormtrooper, right? I mean, it's just impossible to say it. Even like a romantic poem, and it's like, why are you yelling at me? Stop with
There's
the
nothing
German.
romantic about German words. All right.
Joining us right now is Nick Minock. That sounds German. He is, of course, one of the crack reporters here in the D.C. area for ABC 7 WJLA. Nick, thank you for joining us. Are you going to the Stuttgart tonight?
Oh, good grief.
I am not, but my wife and I went to the Sound of Music at the Kennedy Center this past week, and it was great. It was wonderful.
Wasn't it? Yes,
yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, good. Well, I like that. It's very wholesome. All right, let's get to the election. And you're covering, of course, the November elections in Virginia like no one else. And I say like no one else because everybody's focusing on, obviously, the big story with Jay Jones and the Attorney General's race and Spanberger and Sears. But what about this school board race in Loudoun County? 5 seats are up. That could change the face of that body. And a lot of people, a lot of voters in Loudoun County would like to change the face of the school board.
Sure. So there are 9 seats on the Loudoun County School Board. 5 are on the ballot this November. There are 3 incumbents who are serving on the school board that oppose those locker room and bathroom policies we've been reporting on extensively. So if there are 2 more people elected this November, that gets them to 5. They could repeal those bathroom and locker room policies that allow students to use bathrooms and locker rooms based on their gender identity, not their biological sex. And so we've been, reporting on the federal government's lawsuits with the school system, how Linda McMahon wants the school systems in Northern Virginia to repeal these types of policies. Well, they could be repealed if people elected a school board willing to do so. The current school board majority, of course, is defending those policies. So we interviewed all the candidates, all the candidates who are willing to chat with us, that is. And there are 4 contested. Not everyone chatted with us. Are you surprised?
Yeah.
4 of them, 4 of these races are contested. And so you can read on WJLA.com where they stand on various issues from school safety to academic performance to where they stand on these bathroom policies.
Nick, I'd be curious. Can you tell us the ones that refused to interview with you?
Sure. So for this latest round of stories that we did, John Pepper, April Chandler, who's an incumbent, Arvin Estrafi, who's an incumbent, and Matt Svensson. They did not do interviews with us. But we did hear from April Riccardi, Santo Munoz, Samian, and Matt Malone. Those 4 candidates did interviews with us. Those 4 candidates oppose the bathroom policies.
Nice.
And they say that's the number one issue they're hearing on the campaign trail right now for various reasons, right? Like there are people, go ahead.
Well, no, that was going to be my question. Is this the issue? I would think it would be, especially because it could affect federal funding and the budget for these schools.
Yeah, absolutely. So even if you're a parent in Loudoun County and the bathroom and the locker room issue, you care about it, but it might not be your top issue, right? You might care about school safety, academic performance. You might care that if your school board is willing to lose federal funding over this issue, then that becomes a top issue for you, right? Because then you're talking about loss of funding for school lunches, for special education needs, kids who come from poor households. Then you start caring about that issue. And that's why so many people are telling some of these school board candidates, do something about it.
Well, the other thing is I feel like it's always hard, and I've dealt with this myself, is getting people who don't have kids in the schools to understand why these elections are so important. And I think one thing, our candidates also pointing out that to fund these lawsuits and to make up for the loss of funding that might occur if they don't lift these bathroom policies will be higher property taxes. I mean, they're going to have to figure out a way to make up for this gap. So do you hear that from candidates saying that this matters, school board elections matter to everyone, everyone should get out there and vote because of the shenanigans going on, there's lawsuits and there could be increased taxes to pay for them?
Mm-hmm. And of the 4 candidates that we interviewed on 7 News, Matt Malone is doing exactly what you just described, Julie.
Good.
He's making this a number one issue. He is running in the Algonquian district against April Chandler. April Chandler and Arvin Estrafi, by the way, voted to uphold this year these policies, even though they were risking federal funding doing so. So those 2 incumbents are on the ballot. Those are going to be ones to watch in the Sterling and Algonquian district, because we did see in the 2023 school board election an incumbent lose his seat over this issue, and it was in a very blue district, the Ashburn district, and that's the one Dina Griffiths won.
Okay.
It is fascinating to watch these politicians who support these issues, vote on these issues, but then refuse to talk about these issues or explain their policy or the reason why. I mean, Nick Minock, your famous exchange with Abigail Spanberger, where her response to your very simple question, do you support the issue, it was nonsensical legalese word salad, and I still don't know where she stands on this, other than the fact that she voted in Congress to uphold these kind of policies. Nick, one quick follow-up question here on the Jay Jones situation. I know Axios is reporting that he has canceled a fundraiser and that he's now reaching out to other Democrats. What's your take on where things stand right now with this Jay Jones texting scandal?
Well, the walls seem to be closing in on Jay Jones right now. I know his campaign is in crisis mode. I've been chatting with folks who have told me that this is not the first event he's canceled, this fundraiser this week. He's canceled others, and he's working the phones, calling Democrats, elected Democrats in Virginia, saying, hey, stand by my side. Stick with me. We're gonna work this out. But you know what I think is interesting is if there is a time, let's say Mark Warner or some Democrat calls on Jay Jones to drop out, or Abigail Spanberger calls on him to drop out. Doesn't it look insincere of them to call on him at this point to drop out? Because it's been several days now. The story broke on Friday by the National Review. If it was bad on Friday, but you're waiting a week to call on him to drop out, doesn't that look insincere or politically motivated?
That's what it look. It looks like you waited to see if it was going to hurt your campaign or hurt your own political prospects, and now you're calling on him because you found out that it has. That's the only way to interpret it. Yeah. Well spotted, Nick Minock, WJLA. Go over to ABC7's website, and you can get the details on where all the school board members stand on these and other important issues. Thank you, Nick. Great stuff as always.
Thank you. Take care.
It is 7:44 now.
Later this morning on the Chris Plant Show, yesterday was October 7th, so the Democrats were out celebrating Hamas and attacking the police. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
Julie, of course, the Grande Dame of Alexandria, Virginia. Is that your title? No, you're a very popular woman around town. Are you after the show? I'm so jealous of you because after the show you can just go for a stroll in Alexandria and go down by the courthouse because at 10 a.m. James Comey will be perp walked. You got to go there. Bring a sign. Come on.
There's a bakery right across the street. Maybe I'll get some coffee, a muffin, and just have a seat. It's supposed to be nice out.
But I do like that it all centers around a baked good of some sort that you will be able to consider.
Yes, of course.
That's good. So Axios has a story now about delays in D.C. construction projects. And, of course, it's Trump's fault. That's how they frame it. But the real fault is of those sons of guns in Congress who passed laws about hiring illegal immigrants as employees. That's against the law to hire an illegal immigrant.
That's right. That's right.
So it's really Congress's fault for writing and passing that law in the first place. But no, it's Trump's fault because he's doing the thing no one ever expected. He's enforcing the law.
Yes.
Many construction workers are terrified of President Trump's immigration crackdown and have stopped showing up to D.C. job sites, contractors tell Axios. They say the worker shortages are stalling timelines and driving up costs on commercial and residential projects.
They should try hiring Americans, Larry. They should. These contractors should try. I don't know, asking for proof of citizenship. Okay, maybe.
There you go.
Maybe try that. Right.
Well,
maybe pay them a fair wage.
They'd lose their leverage over exploiting the cheap labor because if they know they're in the country illegally, they can always say, "Hey, yeah, I'm going to ask you to work through lunch. Yes, I'm going to ask you to work overtime and not pay you. What are you going to do about it? Sue me? You can't sue me. You'll get deported." See, that's how the bosses talk to the illegal immigrants. Well, there's another angle of this too, Julie Gunlock. By the way, nowhere in the Axios article is there any suggestion to the contractors that perhaps they should in fact hire legal American citizens or green card holders. That's not even an issue. Doesn't even come up. It's how dare Trump enforce these laws. But our friend Chuck Thies, who knows D.C. law better than anyone, he has a very interesting question. If any of these jobs in D.C. were development projects that got tax breaks or other financial support from D.C. government, well, usually when you get those tax breaks or grants or some sort of special incentive from the D.C. Council to do a construction project here, there's a stipulation in there that you hire D.C. residents. Mm-hmm. So I would love for an auditor from the district council to go and follow up on these projects that have now been stalled and say, hey, do you mean to tell me that you haven't hired D.C. residents? You've been hiring illegal immigrants from Guatemala? Because that's a violation of the law, too. Yeah. Do you think that'll happen?
No, I don't. But I do think it's really revealing and it's disgusting that if in fact these construction sites are coming to a standstill, it tells you. It wasn't just a couple guys working at those sites. It tells you that
that's right.
A vast majority of the workers on these construction sites, and that is dangerous, Larry. That is dangerous. Mm-hmm. That they are hiring. They're probably underpaying these. What if they might not be qualified to be builders?
Yeah, no, you're right. And by the way, there's a recent study that breaks it down state by state about the percentage of construction workers who are foreign-born. In the state of Maryland, it's 34% of construction workers are foreign-born. And you can't say, oh, well, that's just, that's because of the demographics here, and that's it. No, you go one state over to West Virginia, and it's 4%. Only 4% of construction workers in West Virginia are foreign-born. What's the difference in Maryland?
9%. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's a lie.
It's because Maryland contractors are trying to exploit cheap labor.
That's right.
And they want to go the easy way out, and they're making it a safe haven for illegal immigrants. Oh, by the way, speaking of safe havens for illegal immigrants, California, 40% of construction workers. It's 7:53.